Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1590B, and today's date is June 12th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Info Release Will Shatter the Deep State, Dark to Light Confirmation. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we talked about the ZTE phones, and this came from Q. And we know that Trump was putting a lot of pressure on the Chinese, and Trump finally came up with a deal with China with the ZTE phone, where he imposed a penalty, and Trump wants U.S. individuals on the board. Now, what's very interesting is that a group of senators, they have successfully attached an amendment that would effectively kill the Trump administration's deal with the Chinese telecom firm. And they're basically attaching this to the defense authorization bill. And they're trying to push this, saying that, the deal that Trump made with China with the ZTE phones, it's a bad deal. It must be overturned. We need to stop this. And it looks like the deep state is trying to do whatever they possibly can to stop what he's trying to do. Now, the question is, can these senators push this amendment through to stop him? Well, this bill, as any amendment or any bill, has a long way to go to make it out of the Senate, let alone the House, where it will likely face more intense opposition and most likely go absolutely nowhere. But you can see right now they're trying to do whatever they possibly can to shut this deal down. We see Ukraine's foreign minister is considering holding a possible meeting with the Normandy 4 states. That's Russia, Germany, France, and Ukraine. This was put together back in 2014 to negotiate a settlement with Donbass, and Ukraine is looking at this once again, saying, you know something, maybe we should get the group together, maybe we should talk about peace, because I think all these countries are starting to realize that everything is changing right now. Remember, Ukraine, that was controlled by the deep state. We know that Kerry, we know that Biden, his son was put on the board of directors of the gas company in Ukraine. We know there was regime change in Ukraine, and we're starting to see that the individuals, the leaders within these countries are saying, okay, we see the writing on the wall. The deep state is losing traction, and we better do something else. And it looks like now Ukraine is turning towards the Normandy 4 leaders and saying, you know something, let's talk about peace. The same thing's happening out in Afghanistan right now. Right now, we see that the Afghanistan government is going to basically negotiate with the Taliban. Now, there is a ceasefire right now, and they're saying this has to do with Ramadan and everything else. But I think this is the beginning stages, and I think Russia is maneuvering this where the Taliban and the Afghanistan government, they're going to come together and try to talk about peace and negotiate, and they're going to negotiate a peace deal. And I think eventually what we're going to see in the next couple of months may be a peace deal. And they're making it perfectly clear that they don't want any other country involved in the talks. And I think what they're talking about is the United States, the deep state. They don't want them involved. We also see that the summit out in Singapore, well, it looks like things went very well there. Trump and Kim Jong-Un, they signed what the U.S. president described as the very important comprehensive document following the conclusion of their historic summit in Singapore. We see right now that, speaking through an interpreter, Kim said that the two countries had a historic meeting and decided to leave the past behind, and we're about to sign a historic document, adding that I would like to express gratitude to the president for making this meeting happen. The letter says that the U.S. and North Korea will join their efforts to build a lasting and stable peace regime on the Korean Peninsula, and that North Korea commits to work towards complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. So we see already that things are moving forward, and of course the corporate media does not like this whatsoever. The deep state does not like this whatsoever, and they keep pushing the idea that this is not going well, where NBC and the other corporate media outlets had that Trump is not going to be talking about human rights issues, but actually human rights issues were talked about during the meeting. And once again, the corporate media was completely wrong about this. And remember, this is the first meeting. This is not going to be the only meeting. This is going to be many, many more meetings coming up. So this is just the beginning stage. We see right now that Kim Jong-Un agrees to repatriate U.S. military remains. And it looks like right now the U.S. military remains will be returning to the U.S. Trump says that Kim Jong-un has accepted his invitation to visit the White House. And we're starting to see that all of this is moving forward at lightning speed. Why? Because once again, if we look back at Q and we look back at previous reports, this discussion already happened. The deal was already made. This is just the show for the rest of the world. We see that Trump says that the war games, well, they're coming to an end. All those drills in South Korea, well, they're going to stop. He said the war games are very expensive, very provocative, and he's calling on Pentagon to stop them. I know the Pentagon is saying, we haven't received any word that they're going to be stopped. And of course, you know what's going to happen. They're going to receive word not to have these drills anymore. So it looks like the summit was a complete and utter success. And now we're moving on to Iran and removing the deep state. We see out in Libya, a Libyan man who took photos of himself posting at various spots across Benghazi in 2000. Well, he went back to Libya and he revisited the same exact locations 18 years later. And he put up these photos and he showed the NATO liberated Libya. And we have to remember the photos were, during Gaddafi's reign. And then the photos were after Gaddafi, where NATO came in, the U.S. was there, bombed, and destroyed the area. And if you look at these photos, you can see in 2000, the country looked pretty darn good. In 2018, it's a complete and utter mess. All you see is rubble, damage, and you see this in Syria. You see this in Iraq. You see this in Lebanon. You see this in Ukraine. You see it in all these different places. Wherever the U.S. and NATO were, they leave death and destruction in their path. Out in Syria, we see the rebels have 48 hours to accept reconciliation in southern Syria. Now, Syria is saying all those areas in Dara and the rest, they're giving the paid mercenary armies 48 hours to accept the Syrian government's reconciliation offer, or else the Syrian army is going to mount a major offensive in this area. And the paid mercenary army, which is, the rebels, Islamic State, al-Nusra, the rest, they are given until June 14th to make their decision. So we will see what happens. We'll know exactly what happens because if the Syrian army mounts this major offensive, we know that the paid mercenary army, which is the army of the deep state, they didn't agree to the terms. Now, Q has been dropping a lot more breadcrumbs, and let's start off with post 1460, which was posted on June 11th, and an Anon posted the following: 6/11 almost over, no booms, no JA, no arrests, yes, LARP. Now, Q responded, when did we emphasize the 11th? Those with an agenda to discredit are pushing false information. You will fail. Learn. Use logic. Post 1462, another Anon posted, Q, is this man free? Is he safe? If he isn't, can you help him? He is a hero. And they're talking about Julian Assange. Q came back and said, what recent news came out of Susan Rice, Julian Assange, WikiLeaks lawsuit? Back in the news. The server brings down the house. And what Q is referring to is now the focus is back on the DNC server. And we can see right now that everything is pointing to that. Post 1464. And Q posted a post 1440 over again where it said boom, 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 4 booms, a week to remember, dark to light, blackout necessary, Q. And Q went on to say, number 100, dark to light, marker 1 minute 7 seconds. Do you believe in coincidences? Left a link to a video. And I'm going to play the video right now. Or those people who only can hear the audio, you will hear the audio. And basically this is put out by the White House. And you'll see what Q is talking about. And I'll cue it up at 1:03 so you can hear what it has to say.
Are called upon to make a difference. But the question is, what difference will the few make? The past doesn't have to be the future. Out of the darkness can come the light, and the light of hope can burn bright.
Now, as you can see, within this video, they're talking about dark to light. And this is why Q is saying, do you believe in coincidences? No, we do not. 1465. Would you believe Hussein tried to call Kim, that's Kim Jong-Un, prior to the summit? He tried to intercept everything that Trump was going to do, even though everything was already set in stone. The problem is that Obama, Hussein, did not have his updated phone number. 3 North Korean generals closed a pathway for bad actors. So basically, the bad actors have been stopped. And we see on post 1466, and Anon wrote, I think he means that the generals were black hats, and that once they were gone, there was no more connection for the cabal to influence Kim. Q comes back and confirms this. Post 1467, June 12th. Q says Eric Schmidt isn't sleeping well. Remember, Eric Schmidt was in North Korea setting up everything there. And Eric Schmidt, well, he's not sleeping well. We see post 1468, June 12th. And Anon posted the same thing. Boom, 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 boom. A week to remember, dark to light, blackout necessary. And again, if you turn this upside down, it looks like a weapon. And if we look at the booms, we can see that the Anon added these 4 booms. Boom 1. The United States and the DPRK commit to establish new U.S.-DPRK relations in accordance with the desire of the peoples of the 2 countries for peace and prosperity. That's number 1 boom. Boom number 2. The United States and North Korea will join their efforts to build a lasting and stable peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. Boom 3. Reaffirming the April 27, 2018 declaration, the North Korean commits to work towards complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Boom number 4. The United States and North Korea commit to recovering POW MIA remains, including the immediate repatriation of those already identified. Q went on to say, what a coincidence. 4 points, 4 booms. Dark to light. He refers back to the video. 1 minute, 7 seconds, marker. More to come. Post 1470, June 12th. When the info is released, Rod Rosenstein is no more. When the info is released, no more Russian investigation. It will factually conclude the corrupt nature by which the entire false narrative was created, all to 1. Prevent the election of Trump, 2. Delay, shelter, mask, hide all illegal activities by Hussein others during the past 8 years. Department of Justice, FBI, cleanse vital as primary. Huber is coming. These people hate America. And we can see right now everything is moving in the right direction. The plan is working. Now, what's very interesting is Mueller is scrambling right now. Everything that he's done is falling apart, and all the lies that he's been telling, they're falling apart. Remember when he indicted the Russian company, and he never thought that he would have to ever deal with the Russian company? And he would just put the indictment out there, and the press would pick it up, and the press would say, oh, look, the Russian company's indicted, they were hacking, they were doing this. Well, now he's in trouble. Because this Russian company, guess what they've done? They showed up in court. And Mueller right now is scrambling. Mueller asked a Washington federal judge for a protective order that would prevent the delivery of copious evidence to lawyers for Concord Management and Consulting, LLC, one of the 3 Russian firms and 13 Russian nationals. The indictment accuses the firm of producing propaganda, pretending to be the U.S. activists online, and posting political content on social media in order to sow discord among American voters. The special counsel's office argues that the risk of the evidence leaking or falling into the hands of foreign intelligence services is a national security issue and would interfere with operations. And of course, that's what they're using. And right now, guess what? They're not going for it. They're not falling for this trick. And I don't think anyone, including Mueller, anticipated that any of the defendants would appear in court to defend against the charges. I think Mueller just put it out there to get publicity on the whole investigation, have the corporate media spread it around to keep their lie going. It's called propaganda. Now, Concord could force prosecutors to turn over discovery about how the case was assembled, as well as evidence that might undermine the prosecution's theories. Now, in a mad scramble to put the brakes on the case, Mueller's team tried to delay the trial, saying that Concord never formally accepted the court summons related to the case. The judge, Dabney Friedrich, a Trump appointee, didn't buy it, denying Mueller a delay in the high-profile trial. The Russians hit back, filing a response to let the court know that Concord voluntarily appeared to counsel as provided for in the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, and further intends to enter a plea of not guilty. Concord has not sought a limited appearance, nor has it moved to quash the summons. As such, the briefing sought by the special counsel's motion is petty forgery. In other words, Mueller was denied the opportunity to kick the can down the road, forcing him to produce the evidence or withdraw the indictment. This is going to jeopardize the entire Trump collusion. And now Mueller is pointing to Russian interference operations in a last-ditch effort. He doesn't have any evidence. It was all propaganda from the beginning. Do we call this checkmate? Because it's starting to sound that way. And we can see Trump, the Patriots, they're coming at the deep state from every single angle, calling them on their propaganda. And when the info is released, we're going to go from dark to light. We're going to see the deep state shattered. It's just a matter of time. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.